Mika had walked this ridge 100 times, but the storm made it feel like a new place. The air still carried that sharp, clean smell after lightning, like the forest had been washed and scrubbed. Drops clung to pine needles and fell in slow, quiet taps. Somewhere far off, a bird tried a cautious note, then stopped as if it remembered the sky had been angry only hours ago. He kept his steps steady. Not fast, not slow. A forest scientist learned early that rushing made you miss the truth. Mika worked for the county research office, a plain building with maps on every wall and a coffee maker that never stopped coughing steam. His job sounded simple when he explained it to people. He studied forest health. He tracked tree disease, soil changes, animal movement, and the way water traveled after storms. He wrote reports that most people never read until something went wrong. When something did go wrong, everyone suddenly wanted answers. This morning, the call came before sunrise. A park ranger named Rafi spoke in a low voice like he did not want the forest to overhear. Lightning hit the old oak on North Ridge, Rafi said. The big one. The tree that shows up in everyone's photos. It is split and smoking. You should see it. Mika sat up in bed at once. He knew that oak. Everyone in town knew it. It stood alone on a rise, thick as a small house, older than any building around it. People called it the Ridge Oak. Kids dared each other to touch its bark. Couples carved initials when nobody was watching. Older folks said the tree was lucky, and they meant it in a serious way. Mika did not believe in luck, but he believed in age. A tree that old remembered things. Its rings held years like pages. Storms, droughts, fires. Every season stamped a mark. Now lightning had written its own harsh line across the trunk. Mika reached the ridge by mid-morning. Rafi waited near the trail marker, rain jacket half unzipped, a radio clipped to his chest. His hair was wet and stuck to his forehead. You smell it? Rafi asked. Mika nodded. The air had that burnt metal scent that lightning left behind. A sour edge mixed with wet leaves. They climbed together. The forest was quiet in the way it got after a big storm. Branches lay scattered like thrown sticks. Mud darkened the trail. Mika watched the ground as he walked, not only for safety but because the ground told stories too. A fresh wash of soil. A line where water ran fast. A patch of exposed roots. As they approached the rise, Mika saw the oak before he reached it. Even from a distance, it looked wounded. A long pale strip ran down its trunk where bark had been blasted away. The scar twisted like a river of raw wood. At the base, the earth was torn up, as if something underneath had pushed. Rafi slowed. It was still smoking when I got here, he said. I kept people back. The town will show up soon. They always do. Mika did not answer right away. He had stopped walking. The oak filled his view, and it stopped him cold in a way that surprised him. Not because of the lightning scar. He had seen trees struck before. But this was different. The ground around the oak looked wrong. A tree's base was usually a calm place. Roots held soil firm. Even in storms, the earth stayed packed, shaped by years of pressure and decay. Here, the soil seemed lifted and cracked. A shallow trench had formed along one side, like something had shifted under the surface. Mika moved closer, careful not to step on exposed roots. He crouched near the trunk, touched the bark at the edge of the lightning scar. It was warm, not hot, but the warmth lingered like a bruise. The wood beneath was smooth and pale. He followed the scar down with his eyes. It ran to the ground, then disappeared where the soil had split. Mika leaned forward and looked into the crack. Darkness stared back. It was not just a thin line. The crack widened into a small opening, a pocket where the earth had separated. Mika could see a slant of something inside. Not root. Not rock. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small flashlight. He clicked it on and aimed it into the gap. The beam caught on a flat surface, then slid. Mika adjusted the angle. The light revealed a straight edge. Straight edges did not happen in roots. Rafi leaned over his shoulder. "Is that?" he began, then stopped. Mika did not speak. He shifted to get a better look and brushed loose soil away with his gloved hand. The opening widened by a few inches. More of the flat surface appeared. It was stone, maybe, but not natural. It looked too smooth. Too placed. "Could be an old marker," Rafi said, trying to sound calm. Mika shook his head. His mind was already sorting through possibilities. Old foundations. Buried trash. A forgotten well cover. A collapsed animal den. Then he saw it. A faint pattern, carved lines that formed a simple shape. Not a random scratch. A deliberate mark. Mika's throat tightened. He had studied this forest for years, but he had never seen anything like this beneath the ridge oak. He had never thought to dig here. No one did. People treated the oak like a town monument, not a research site. He stood up slowly, as if rising too fast would make the ground shift again. "We need to keep this area closed," he said. Rafi nodded quickly. "I already set the trail sign to closed," he said. "But you know how people are." Mika knew. The town was called Greybridge, a small place with a river and a paper mill and a main street that tried hard to look cheerful. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody also had opinions, and news moved faster than wind. If there was something hidden under the ridge oak, the whole town would want to see it. Some would be excited. Some would be afraid. Some would say it belonged to their family. Some would say it should not be touched. Mika looked around the oak's base again. The storm had torn away a mat of leaves, exposing soil that looked older and packed tight. Lightning could do strange things, he knew. It could heat moisture in the ground so fast that it expanded like a tiny explosion. It could shatter rock. It could throw bark. It could even open holes. But it did not carve symbols. "Do you think it's dangerous?" Rafi asked. Mika considered the question the way he did in meetings. Not just the obvious answer, but what the question really meant. Rafi was not asking if the stone would bite. He was asking if this discovery would bring trouble. "I don't know," Mika said honestly. "Not yet." He took photos from different angles, making sure to include the position of the opening and the lightning scar. He measured the crack with a small tape and noted the soil shift around it. He was halfway through writing in his notebook when he heard voices down the trail. "They're already coming," Rafi muttered. Mika looked up. 3 hikers appeared, bright jackets against the wet green. They stopped when they saw the closed sign and the ranger. "What happened?" one of them called. "We heard lightning hit the oak." Rafi stepped forward. "Trails closed today," he said. "Storm damage." The hikers craned their necks, trying to see around him. Mika could feel their curiosity like a pressure. "We just want a quick look," another said. "We won't touch anything." Rafi gave them a firm look. "No," he said. "It's not safe." The hikers hesitated, then backed away with grumbles. As they turned, one of them lifted a phone, trying to snap a picture from the trail. Mika watched them go. The photo would be shared. A message would be sent. By noon, half the town would know the oak was struck. By evening, rumors would grow. People would say the oak was split in half. People would say it was on fire. People would say it revealed something buried. People would say anything. Mika leaned close to Rafi. "We need tape," he said. "More than a sign." Rafi nodded and spoke into his radio. While Rafi handled the closure, Mika returned to the opening. He knelt again and brushed away a little more soil, careful not to destabilize anything. The gap widened enough for him to see a slanted corner. The stone looked like a lid. A lid to what? Mika's mind jumped to old town stories. Every place had them. Greybridge had plenty. There was talk of a hidden tunnel under the mill. There were whispers about a missing chest from long ago, taken during a flood. Some old families told of a lost cabin in the woods where people hid during bad times. Most stories were half-true at best. But symbols beneath the town's favorite oak felt like the kind of story that could be true. He shined his flashlight again. The beam slid down the stone edge and caught on a second surface beneath. There was space under the lid. Not much, but enough to suggest a hollow. A storage cavity. A small chamber. A buried box lined with stone. Mika sat back and exhaled slowly. His heart beat faster than it should have for a calm morning hike. He forced himself to think like a scientist. What was the next step? He could not just pry it open. He did not have proper tools, and he did not want to damage anything. If this was an old historical site, it needed careful handling. If it was something else, it could be unstable. Rafi returned with a roll of bright tape and began stringing it between trees. Town office wants an update, he said. They're already asking questions. Mika's phone buzzed at that exact moment. The screen showed a number he recognized. Mayor Sanaa. Mika stared at the name. Sanaa ran Greybridge with friendly smiles and hard decisions. She had grown up here, left for a few years, then returned like the town had called her back. She cared about image, about safety, about not letting problems grow before they could be controlled. He answered. Mika. Mika, Sanaa said, voice tight. Rafi told me you're at the oak. Is it bad? It's struck, Mika said. There's damage, but it's standing. And... Sanaa paused. Rafi sounded strange. Mika glanced at the opening. He pictured Sanaa's face, the way her eyes narrowed when she sensed a bigger story. There's something under it, he said. A stone structure. It looks man-made. Silence held for half a second. Then Sanaa spoke fast. Is it a sinkhole? A hazard? It could become one, Mika said. But right now it's a small opening. What do you think it is? Mika chose his words. Possibly an old chamber. I saw carved marks on the stone. Sanaa exhaled sharply. Okay, she said. Close it off. No one goes near it until we figure out what we're dealing with. I'll call the historical office and the county safety team. Mika felt a flicker of relief. At least she was taking it seriously. And Mika, Sanaa added, please, do not say anything else to anyone. I don't want panic. Mika looked toward the trail where the hikers had gone. It might be too late, he said quietly. Sanaa's voice hardened. Do your best. The call ended. Mika stood and slipped the phone back in his pocket. Rafi finished taping. The bright line wrapped around the oak like a warning ribbon. It looked wrong on such an old tree. What now? Rafi asked. Mika took another slow look at the oak. The lightning scar, the cracked ground, the hint of a hidden space. He felt like he was standing at the edge of something bigger than his job title. We wait for the county team, he said. And we keep this quiet as long as we can. Rafi gave a short laugh that held no humor. Quiet in Greybridge, he said. Sure. They stayed for another hour, watching the ridge and the tree, taking notes, keeping people away. A few more hikers came and left. One woman argued. One man tried to step over the tape until Rafi blocked him. In each face, Mika saw the same thing. Need. People needed stories. They needed explanations. They needed to feel like the world was knowable. A lightning strike was simple. A secret under the town's oldest oak was not. By the time the county truck arrived, the sky had cleared. Sunlight broke through clouds and made the wet leaves shine. The world looked fresh and innocent again, like it had not just shattered a tree. Two workers stepped out of the truck. One was a safety inspector named Noman, wide-shouldered and serious. The other was a survey specialist named Layla, carrying a case of instruments. They walked up to Mika and Rafi. Noman nodded at the oak. I heard you found something, he said. Mika pointed to the opening and explained what he had seen. Layla knelt immediately, setting up a small camera on a flexible rod. We'll look without touching, she said. She guided the camera into the gap. The screen on her device flickered, then showed the inside view. Soil walls, a slant of stone, and beneath it a dark pocket. Layla adjusted the angle. The camera light brightened the space. Mika leaned closer. Rafi leaned too. Noman watched without blinking. The image revealed the underside of the stone lid. There were carvings there too, clearer now. Lines forming a simple circle. A mark like a bridge shape. Another like a leaf. Then the camera shifted slightly, and the light caught on something that made Mika's stomach drop. Inside the hollow space, tucked below the lid, was a bundle wrapped in something that did not look like soil or rock. It looked like cloth. Old cloth. Still intact. Layla froze. "That's not natural," she whispered. Noman's face tightened. "Nobody touches anything," he said. Mika's hands went cold even though the sun was out. A cloth bundle under a sealed stone lid beneath the ridge oak. Carved symbols. Hidden for who knew how long. The town stories Mika had always shrugged at suddenly felt like thin covers over a real secret. And Mika understood, in that single sharp moment, why the oak had been treated like a monument. Maybe someone had wanted it that way. Maybe the oak was not just a tree. Maybe it was a marker. Rafi swallowed hard. "What is that?" he asked, voice low. Mika stared at the screen. The cloth bundle sat like it was waiting, patient, silent. He did not have an answer. Not yet. But he knew the town would not stay the same once the bundle came out. He also knew something else, something that made his heartbeat speed up again. Lightning had not just struck the oak. It had chosen the exact tree that hid this. And that felt like more than chance. He looked up at the oak's scarred trunk, the long bright wound running down its body, and he thought about all the years it had stood there, holding a secret under its roots. Now the forest had decided to speak. Mika stepped back and met Noman's eyes. "We need to treat this like a protected site," he said. Noman nodded. "And we need to call the mayor," he said. Mika's phone buzzed again, as if the town itself was listening. He did not answer right away. He stared at the oak one more time, feeling the weight of what had just appeared on that tiny screen. The secret beneath the tree was real. And it had been hidden for a reason. By the time the sun moved past the ridge, Greybridge no longer felt quiet. The news did not need details to spread. A single photo taken from far away, a line of tape around the oak, and a county truck were enough. People filled the edge of the trail, whispering and pointing. Some brought coffee. Some brought their children. Some came with worry written across their faces. Mika stood near the oak with Noman and Layla. Rafi moved back and forth, holding the line and asking people to step away. Every few minutes, someone asked the same question. "What did you find?" The answer never changed. "An unstable area," Rafi said. "Please move back." But the crowd did not thin. It grew. Mayor Sanaa arrived just after noon. She wore boots instead of heels and a jacket she probably kept for days like this. Her expression was calm, but Mika knew her well enough to see the tension under it. She walked straight to the oak, stopping just outside the tape. "Show me," she said. Layla brought the camera screen closer. Sanaa bent down, eyes sharp. The image showed the stone lid, the carvings, and the cloth bundle beneath. Sanaa did not speak for a long moment. When she did, her voice was low. "How long do you think that's been there?" "Longer than the town," Noman said. "The stonework is old. The cloth looks protected, maybe wrapped in layers." Sanaa straightened. "We need experts," she said. "History, safety, everything. And we need to control the story." Mika glanced at the crowd. A man argued with Rafi near the trail sign. A woman held her phone high, filming. Control already felt like a weak word. "What if it's nothing dangerous?" Sanaa asked quietly, looking back at Mika. "What if it's just an old box?" Mika did not answer right away. He thought about the symbols, the care taken to seal the space, the way the oak stood right above it. Then someone wanted it hidden, he said. And they trusted the tree to protect it. Sanaa pressed her lips together. Open it, she said finally. But not here. Not like this. Noman nodded. We can stabilize the opening and remove the contents carefully, he said. Transport it to the county lab. The decision settled like a stone dropping into water. Mika felt both relief and unease. Once the bundle left the oak, there would be no putting the secret back. They worked slowly. Layla measured the cavity. Noman reinforced the edges. Mika helped brush soil away with small tools, his movements gentle, almost respectful. The stone lid was heavier than it looked, fitted snug against the earth. As they lifted it, a quiet hush fell over the crowd. Even the people at the trail seemed to sense something important was happening. The lid came free with a soft sound, not a crack or a scrape, but a dull release. Beneath it lay the cloth bundle, folded tight, its surface darkened by time but not destroyed. It smelled faintly of dry leaves and something sharper. Mika held his breath as Noman slid a support under it. Together, they lifted it out. The crowd leaned forward as one. Rafi raised his voice. Please step back, he said, louder now. The bundle was placed in a padded container. Layla sealed it, her hands steady. Sanaa watched the process without blinking. When it was done, she turned to the crowd. Everyone, she said, projecting calm. The oak was damaged by lightning. During safety checks, we found an old buried item. It is being examined to make sure there is no risk to the forest or the town. Please go home. We will share updates when we can. Some people listened. Many did not. Questions flew. What kind of item? Is it valuable? Is it dangerous? Sanaa did not answer them. She simply repeated the message and walked away with the container. The county truck left soon after, carrying the bundle and a weight that felt heavier than stone. Mika stayed behind for a while, staring at the empty cavity under the oak. Without the lid and bundle, it looked like a wound, open and unsure. He felt a strange sadness, as if something that belonged to the forest had been taken away. That night, Greybridge buzzed. People gathered in kitchens and on porches. Old stories were dusted off and shared with new energy. Someone said their grandfather once mentioned a hiding place under the oak. Someone else claimed the oak marked an old boundary line. Someone insisted the town was built over something important. Mika did not join the talk. He sat at his small kitchen table, notes spread around him, his mind replaying the carvings again and again. Circle. Bridge. Leaf. He slept badly. The next morning, he stood outside the county lab with Sanaa, Noman, and Layla. The building was plain, like most places where careful work happened. Inside, the bundle waited. They gathered in a clean room. The container was placed on a table. Everyone wore gloves. The air felt thick with attention. Layla unsealed the container and gently unfolded the outer layer of cloth. It crumbled at the edges but held together enough to reveal a second layer beneath. This one was finer, woven tight. As they opened it, something hard and flat appeared. A book. Not a modern one. The cover was thick, darkened, the surface marked with the same symbols Mika had seen on the stone. Circle. Bridge. Leaf. Sanaa inhaled sharply. A journal, she said. Mika felt a chill. Books were meant to be read. Someone had buried words on purpose. Noman nodded. Looks like it. They lifted the book out. The pages were stiff but intact. Layla carefully opened it to the first page. The writing was neat, slanted, written in dark ink that had faded but not vanished. Mika leaned in, reading the first line. This is a record of what we chose to hide, and why. Silence fell over the room. They read together, slowly, translating the old style into modern sense. The writer did not give a full name. Only an initial. The entries spoke of the forest, of early settlers, of a time when Greybridge was not yet called that. The writer described a discovery found near the river. Something that brought fear. Something that caused harm when spoken of openly. The writer described meetings held in secret, decisions made under the oak. They thought the oak would last, Sanaa murmured. They trusted it. Mika turned a page. His hands trembled slightly. The next entry described an event that made his stomach knot. A sickness. Not a disease of the body, but of the mind. The writer claimed that certain knowledge spread unrest. That people fought over it. That families turned against each other. That the town nearly tore itself apart. They buried the records, Noman said quietly, reading over Mika's shoulder. They thought forgetting was safer. The final entries explained the choice. The book was sealed. Other items were hidden. The oak was chosen as the marker because it stood at the center of the conflict and the center of the land. Sanaa closed her eyes. This changes our history, she said. Mika looked up. It also explains why the oak mattered, he said. Why people protected it without knowing why. Layla turned to another page. There's more, she said. She pointed to a rough map drawn in the margins. It showed the ridge, the river, and marks that looked like paths. These are other sites, she said. Not just one. The room felt smaller. Mika imagined the forest dotted with hidden places, each holding a piece of something that was never meant to return. Sanaa straightened. We cannot release this as it is, she said. People will panic. They will search the woods. They will demand answers we don't have. Mika met her gaze. But hiding it again would repeat the same mistake, he said. They buried it because they were afraid. Fear didn't make the problem go away. It just waited. Sanaa hesitated. For a moment, she did not look like a mayor. She looked like someone facing a choice with no safe path. What do you suggest? She asked. Mika took a breath. We tell the truth, he said. Carefully. We explain that the town has a complicated past. We share the history without turning it into a threat. Noman frowned. And the other sites? Mika glanced at the map again. We secure them, he said. Study them. Learn what they were afraid of. Layla closed the book gently. And if what they hid really is dangerous? She asked. Mika thought of the lightning, the sudden crack in the earth, the way secrets had a habit of surfacing when least expected. Then we face it together, he said. Outside the lab, reporters waited. Phones rang non-stop. The town demanded answers. Inside, the book rested on the table, silent now that it had been opened. Its words had crossed time to land in their hands. Sanaa looked at the group. Once this leaves this room, she said, Greybridge will never be the same. Mika nodded. He felt fear, yes, but also something else. A sense of rightness. The forest had spoken. The oak had broken open the past. And whatever the town became next would be built on truth, not buried under roots. He reached out and touched the edge of the book. They hid this to protect the town, he said softly. Now it's our turn to decide what protection really means. Sanaa squared her shoulders and turned toward the door. Then let's start, she said. Greybridge woke up to a town meeting notice posted everywhere. On doors. On shop windows. On the old board near the bridge. The words were simple. Community meeting town hall tonight. No details. No explanations. By evening, the hall was full. People stood along the walls and spilled into the hallway. Voices mixed with tension. Some faces showed excitement. Others showed fear. Everyone felt it. Something important was about to be said. Mika stood near the side with Rafi and Layla. Noman leaned against a pillar, arms crossed. The book rested on a table at the front, covered with a plain cloth. Mayor Sanaa waited behind the podium, hands resting on the wood like she needed the support. When the room finally quieted, Sanaa lifted her head. I won't waste your time, she said. The lightning strike on the ridge oak revealed something hidden beneath it. That discovery led us to a written record from the earliest days of this town. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Sanaa continued. The record explains why something was buried under the oak and why it stayed hidden for generations. She gestured to the table. This book was written by one of the town's first settlers. It describes a period of conflict that nearly destroyed the settlement before it became Greybridge. A man near the front raised his hand. Conflict how? Sanaa did not look away. Words, she said. Ideas. Decisions that divided people so deeply that they stopped seeing each other as neighbors. The room grew still. Mika felt his heartbeat in his ears. This was the moment where truth either healed or cut deeper. Sanaa nodded to Mika. He stepped forward. I study forests, Mika said. I look at how systems survive stress. Fire. Storms. Disease. Forests don't survive by hiding damage. They survive by adapting to it. A few people nodded without knowing why. The people who buried this book believed that certain knowledge would destroy the town if it spread, Mika continued. They chose silence. That choice shaped Greybridge more than anyone realized. A woman stood. What knowledge? Sanaa and Mika exchanged a glance. Sanaa gave a small nod. Mika lifted the cloth and opened the book. The book describes a discovery made near the river, he said. It was not treasure. It was not a weapon. It was proof that the land had been promised to different groups at the same time. Gasps spread. The settlers learned that their claim to the land rested on broken agreements, Mika said. Some wanted to leave. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to hide the truth and build anyway. An older man shook his head. That's history, he said. Everyone took land. Yes, Mika said. But this town was nearly torn apart by that truth. Families chose sides. Trust collapsed. People disappeared. Silence pressed hard. The book says the leaders decided that forgetting was safer than facing it, Mika said. They buried the records and built the town over silence. A young woman near the back spoke softly. Why tell us now? Mika looked at the crowd. Because silence does not erase harm, he said. It only delays it. Sanaa stepped forward again. The lightning did not create this truth, she said. It uncovered it. We cannot bury it again. Voices rose. Some angry. Some scared. Some relieved. A man shouted, What does this change now? Sanaa met his eyes. It changes how we understand ourselves, she said. And how we choose to move forward. Rafi spoke up from the side. We protect this forest because it protects us, he said. The oak stood over this secret for centuries. Not to hide it forever. To keep it until the town was ready. The room quieted again. Layla stepped forward, holding a copy of the map. There are other sites mentioned in the book, she said. We will secure them. Study them. Preserve them. Nothing will be removed without public oversight. Noman added, There is no danger from these sites. Only history. People shifted. Fear began to loosen its grip. An older woman stood slowly. My family has lived here for generations, she said. We always felt like something was missing. Like the town had a shadow. She looked at the book. Maybe this is it. A young man asked, What happens to the oak? Mika answered without hesitation. We protect it, he said. Not as a symbol of silence, but as a reminder of truth. The meeting lasted hours. Questions were asked. Arguments flared and cooled. When people finally left, Greybridge felt changed but not broken. Outside, the night air was cool. The sky was clear. Mika walked the trail alone. He reached the ridge oak just before midnight. The scar from the lightning gleamed pale in the moonlight. The cavity beneath had been stabilized and covered, not sealed, just protected. Mika placed his hand against the trunk. You held it well, he said quietly. The forest stirred. Leaves whispered. An owl called from deeper in the trees. In the weeks that followed, Greybridge changed in ways that surprised everyone. The book was displayed in the town hall. Schools taught the real story. Guided walks were created to explain the forest's role in the town's past. People argued less in secret and more in the open. Some left. Most stayed. The oak became a gathering place again, but now people came to listen, not just to touch. Mika continued his work, but it felt different. He no longer studied only trees. He studied how people responded to truth. One afternoon, Sanaa joined him by the oak. You were right, she said. The truth didn't destroy the town. Mika smiled slightly. Forests grow stronger after storms, he said. As long as they're allowed to heal. Sanaa looked at the scarred trunk. Do you think the lightning was chance? Mika considered the question. Lightning follows paths of least resistance, he said. So does truth. They stood in silence. Above them, the oak stretched its branches toward the sky, wounded but alive, its roots still deep, no longer guarding a secret, but anchoring a town that finally understood itself. And Greybridge moved forward, not because the past was buried, but because it was finally seen.